everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Devil's Advocate Trades Edition with your host, Lisa McGrath. I am welcomed by all of you wonderful people, and I want to welcome Irina, who is one of the authors of the book Good Grief, and I'm super excited. I did tell all of you guys that these authors would be coming on, so there's a few of you booked, and Irina is the first one, so I'm super excited. So hi, Irina.
Hi, Lisa. So good to be here.
Oh, I love it. I'm super excited. So I first heard about this book through Victoria Giblin. She was on the show in February. And so she was telling me about, how the book was coming about and all the things that were going on. Now, I understand a lot of you authors that have put stories into this book. They're all very personal stories.
Very much so. Yes. It's a little bit like a little snippet of our life, of our real life experience, let's say, and how we overcame whatever was thrown at us and what lessons we learned and how we're better for it.
So tell me about your story, because I want to hear it.
Well, the little bit, I guess, that I wrote about, there is really a lot more, and Victoria is actually talking about a part 2. But in the portion that I shared here has to do with my now former marriage and former partner that I chose to be spending the life with, what I thought was going to be a forever thing, but turned out that's not what life had in store for me. So I talk about the experience that I had with him when he had an affair with another woman while in our relationship, and she got pregnant, and what happened after that, after I learned about it, and kind of how that became basically the beginning of the end for me and the relationship that I was in.
So tell me something. When you were you married to somebody who, what's your background, Irina, first of all?
As in, I was born in Russia.
Okay.
And moved here when my sister and I were 15. So I've been here about a quarter of a century now.
So was your ex-spouse Russian, or were they Canadian?
No, he's Canadian. We met here.
Those bloody Canadians, eh? Just
right. Although I don't know if it's Canadian specific, all sorts of behavior.
Oh no, it doesn't matter where you're from. Everybody does some sort of dirt on some level.
Right.
So now I'm curious because a lot of women go through. Well, I shouldn't just say women. A lot of people go through infidelity in their relationships, and some, unfortunately, there's conception that happens inside of those relationships. How far, when did this all come out in the wash? When did you find out? Was baby born? Was baby still in, cooking? What was happening?
Yeah. By the time I found out from the woman, she found me on social media. She was telling me that the kid was about to be 3 years old. And I'm not really sure what her intent was ever, really. But it was quite a few years later.
Did he know about baby? Was he still in their lives?
He wasn't. No, at the time that it happened, apparently he advised the woman to abort, and they parted ways. And then she found him a number of years later, and it came to light, I guess, in my life.
I always find that interesting. When situations come about where people are doing dirt, and then the response is to get rid of the problem.
Right.
But then at the same time, as a woman, I'm kind of curious what goes on in your brain psychologically, just as a woman, to be like, screw you, I'm going to go ahead and have a baby. Right. I'm going to have this baby, and then just pop in later on. What goes through your, you know what I mean? For me, if I had decided that I was going to keep this child for whatever reason, right? And I knew the person didn't want anything to do with it, that person would never have anything to do with it. They'd never know. The only time they would find out is when that child was old enough to go find them themselves.
Right. My guess was that she maybe came to and decided the children are expensive and she could use financial support. And I know at the time, him and his brother, myself, were in a company that was working in oil and gas. Okay. So maybe she thought she can cash out and make some money in the long term as far as child support goes. So maybe that was the intention. But for my purposes, I never really dug much into those details.
Yeah.
There are two perspectives, right? You want to know all the details and all the things, but at the same time, it doesn't really help me as a person. So
No.
they did what they did,
Hmm.
and he acted how he acted. For my purposes, I needed the lesson, obviously,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
how the rest of my life shaped it, I would say it started from that. I didn't necessarily act for a couple of years, right? The whole you're supposed to get mad and kick him out of the house and this and that and that over there. I wasn't necessarily an emotional person or highly emotional person, so it wasn't in my nature to do something like that. But at some point, it became that I couldn't continue burying things, so
Hmm.
that's where my personal development and maybe even emotional development started. A
Hmm.
couple of years after that, that led me where I am today.
Good for you. You know what? I mean, things happen in life that you can't control. You can't control the other person. They're going to do what they want to do regardless.
Hmm.
And all you can do is grow and move on from it. When I say grow, I mean grow as yourself. There's
Hmm.
nothing that you've done wrong. And I mean, like everyone will say, well, what happened? Were you not doing this? Were you not? That doesn't matter. It's a relationship. You communicate. If you're
Right.
not happy in the relationship, you communicate. If you're someone's not doing something or is doing something that is upsetting the other person, you communicate. That's how it
Right.
works. And you decide whether or not you want to continue on this journey or you don't. Most people, when they go to get married for the happily ever after, not for the happily right now. So,
Right. Well, yeah, it's generally a long term commitment for
well,
most.
well, it is. I mean, weddings are expensive, marriages are expensive. You're conjoining everything. You're taking someone's name. There's a lot of things that go into marriage. I was married once. Happy to say he didn't cheat on me, but he just wasn't my person. So
Yeah.
things happen.
Which is, right, a better way forward as well, right? If this
Hmm.
person was to say, I'm struggling or this is not working or whatever it is,
Hmm.
that's one, right? But just to go and bluntly do something that you know will eventually come up, like a human
Hmm.
doesn't just disappear.
Yeah.
So
Well,
again, right, it is what it is. But again, it prompted me to be asking questions of myself and wanting to learn more about why or how or when did I end up where I ended up. So it sort of was a bit of a stepping stone to where I obviously needed to go and where, again, where I ended today.
yeah. So tell me, where are you today? Other than being an author for Good Grief, what else are
Right.
you doing?
I am in Canada. Well, right now, in all of the personal development, I did at the time, like I said, a couple years after, I started working with a personal coach that I did a lot of digging with, hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars later.
Yeah.
The commitment that is required. Today, I am a chief operating officer for a company here in Calgary that is a construction company, more or less. We are in remediation space. And I'm leading a team of about 100 individuals every day to do bigger and better, but at the same time, more with less every day, based on my uh, travels, I guess, on my journey of understanding who I am and how human nature works and how humans interact and what motivation is and what leadership is, to be able to build a company that is based on relationships and understanding of individuals rather
Hmm.
than just numbers and dollars and get the work done kind of mentality.
Well, congratulations. That's a
Thank you.
very ambitious and successful position. I know I've been the COO of a construction company, and I don't know how much Victoria would have told you about me, but my podcast is Devil's Advocate Trades Edition, so you kind of fit right in outside of the author
Right.
aspect because I
Yeah,
work
I
with.
saw that. So, right in a roundabout way, it's definitely a
Yeah.
conversation starter. But yeah.
Well, yeah, because I'm a construction consultant, so that's why I've been on all sides of the tracks for that. So, and I've been in different positions, and I've gone to the ground and helped the boys and pulled, a slung rock and pulled floor and all that stuff. So I know what it's like to be a leader and understand and how you're going to do your business development from the inside. And
Right.
if your people aren't happy and they're not understood, I had good HR. I have an HR background as well. I've got psychology background, and I did all that because I wanted to be a true leader, not a boss. I was a boss when I was working in construction, like just a bitchy boss. You know what I mean? Like do this, do that. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? You're running in late, blah, blah, blah. And it was just, and it was squawking. And I felt because the owner of the company, who is the father of my children, but
Whoopsies.
not with him anymore, but hey.
Yeah.
But,
We all have our lessons.
right, right. I mean, come on. But, I felt like he was, in my opinion, at least when I was working with him, I felt him to be just a very miserable person. And I
Mm.
felt like that shitty energy just attached to me, and I wasn't the true leader that I knew I could be. So after I left, and like you, right, you self-discover and you do things, and I was cheated on. He'll swear up and down he never did anything, but I'm like, listen, accusing me of cheating is a narcissist's confession.
Basically, right? That's my mantra.
Yeah. So that was that. And when I started my company, I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be different. I wanted people to be, I wanted to be that cheerleader. And that's what I do in my company as a consultant in construction, because I do work alongside the trades. And a lot of them are like, oh, well, are you going to give us a hard time? And I'm like, only if your ethics don't mirror. If you are not ethical, if you are not transparent, we're going to have a problem, because my client is putting a lot of skin in the game in order for you to construct something. My job is to ensure that everybody succeeds on this project. But if you're going to create problems and try and do massive amounts of markup, I'm going to catch it. I know I was the CEO of a landscape company, and, it was landscape construction, remediation, it was everything. And I was also the director of operations for a restoration company. So you know where to look, right? I believe everybody should make money, but you don't need to make this year's, profits on one project.
Right.
Like, get a couple. If you want to make a couple of $1 million, get it on a couple, not one. So, but, so I find it interesting. I love meeting. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm excited right now knowing that you said the chief operating officer. So you're CEO. You're CEO of this construction company. So that to me is exciting, because more women need to be recognized in these large, leadership roles, because you're not just like, oh, I'm the executive assistant. You're running this company. You are steering the ship. You are steering your employees. You are trying to create a really great culture, and you're doing all the things based off of experiences and working on yourself. And that is commendable and inspiring. So please know
Thank
that.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. It's definitely interesting how what lessons really life throws at you, right? Because I have a degree in accounting, so I did the bean counting thing. I never specifically landed in accounting field because accounts payable, accounts receivable is just really boring. Mm-hmm. So at the time, this was 10 years ago now, that life routed me into a sales position within actually distribution in a landscape supplies company organization, where I was more or less forced by life to learn sales, to learn business development, to learn relationships and networking, and what the hunting means when you are in that sales position or in that find new business position, in which of course has its own ups and downs. And then coming out of this marriage situation, which is actually coming up 5 years at the end of this month, in that in the first couple of years, rather, coming out of it, I was met with, it's a life insurance, basically distribution company, but the team that I landed with teaches financial responsibility. Even coming out of university with an accounting degree, they don't teach you about personal finances or financial planning or any of that stuff. It's just, here's a financial statement, analyze it, and tell the company that you're working for if they're doing good, bad, or otherwise, right? Mm-hmm. Individually, we don't necessarily have those conversations. So having the sales, let's say, training and sales information delivered in one place and financial education in another place brings sort of this whole thing full circle for me, where now I get to put to work the last 15 years of travels and trials and tribulations and experiences and make an organization better because of my work and because I decided to get better myself.
I think that's awesome. And sometimes it takes these like life changing, life altering moments for you to see your own power,
Hmm.
to step into the role you were meant to step into, but got sidetracked because, something came along and it was pretty.
Right?
That's
The shiny object syndrome.
That's right. It was just, it's funny. I had this. So there's this gentleman that I speak to often. He's extremely intelligent. He is very well known in BC. He sits in some very high ranking positions. He owns his own company, and his name is Larry Clay. He's an amazing guy. And Larry had this really great thing that he said to me. He said, as I was having a chat with him, and I was like, Larry, I don't know what to do. Like, it seems like every time I turn around, I get screwed over by this person. And he says, listen to me. He goes, when you're growing a company, he's like, it's like a big oak tree, and there's going to be a lot of squirrels that want to inhabit your oak tree. And I
Yeah.
kind of laughed and I was like, okay. And he says, some squirrels, they're okay. They can stay there through the winter. They kind of help you, carry them a little bit. They carry you, they help you. They keep your tree, kind of occupied. It's nice. You kind of shelter them. He's like, and then there's a whole bunch of other squirrels that just want to run through your tree, just hop to another tree. He's like, that's what you need to be careful of. He's like, you can't get caught up on every squirrel that comes to your tree. Only the ones that want to build a home in there are the ones you need to pay attention to. But those are the ones that are hard to find. So, and I was like, it's actually a really interesting analogy, Larry. And he was
Right?
like,
Yeah. The power of detachment, right?
yeah,
Like we cannot be in the world of HR. I'm sure you're aware. We can't uh, cling to every person that we hired, right? And all of a sudden, maybe they're not doing so well or not as well as you thought they might, and you were just hanging to them for dear life, even though they're dragging the whole boat down, right? So to be
yeah.
able to detach and let go and find the right people for the right places is definitely a project in itself.
I love that you just said that. Let me tell you an argument I have all the time with clients. So I also go in and help construction companies. So I have my website will be launching soon, my new website, where you can collect all of the safety for core and all of the HR documents that you need in order for your business to run smoothly, whether you're a startup or whether you've been in business for quite some time and now you're moving into those different layers of where you require these types of things. So when I would step into a company and they would be like, okay, Lisa, we need HR. We need you to assess our company of kind of like what you think we need from the HR perspective. And I'm like, okay. So I would go in, and the first thing I would have to say is, this person is poisoning your well. Oh, well, that's our best guy. And they
Right?
make us the most money and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't give a shit. If I don't care if he makes you $3 million a year, he's your biggest liability and he's poisoning your well, because every time you let him get away with something and then someone is getting fired or written up for something much less than this, I'm like, you're creating a divide with morale.
Hmm.
I'm like, you're creating a divide with him. And I said, and every time this person goes out in your company vehicles, I'm like, they are a liability. So that, however much money they make a year is going to be gone in a blink of an eye if something happens, because this is your poisonous, it's your poisonous apple. And people just, they're so emotionally attached to the person because of the amount of money the person is bringing in, and then they've built a rapport with that person, so now they're like besties. And I'm like, no, you can maintain healthy relationships inside of your company with your people, but you don't want to be the best friend. And that was another thing I used to have to tell all of my supervisors and my foremen. And because I would say, when we want to do what do you call it, like team building, right? We would do team building. And I would say to them, okay, I have someone coming in as an HR specialist who's going to go over some things to do team building. And they would say, well, we do team building, we just go to the bar. And I'm like, that's not team
Well,
building. That's not team building. They would fight with me. And I was like, it's not team building. So I love that you said that, because that has always been the most, you have to be impartial with things and you have to detach and be able to look at it from a different lens when you're paying attention to your company and what makes it work, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. And if
right,
you are the person keeping the weak link, then you are the weakest link, right?
right, yeah. But the rest of the team sees it, right? And then resentment starts building, and then it's just this giant thing that grows, and you don't even see it because reasons ABC until it's too late, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I 100% agree. 100%. It turns into a snowball, and then it's a domino effect. And then, if your people aren't happy or they're disgruntled or they're doing like, it's like if you walk into a company and the company is struggling from perspectives of their staff, they have a revolving door, or or they feel like they're missing money, or they're, you know what I mean? Like there's little things like I've seen people, people that are in payroll steal money for payroll. Like have had to get people charged for that. And I'm like, yeah, no, you
Wow.
can't do that. You can't
Yeah.
steal hours. It's still stealing. Like, and
Right.
I'm like, you got a better chance of catching like, like a nasty felony charge because you decided to, you thought that, 400 extra hours of pay was going to be, I'm like, it's well over $10,000 at this point. So now we're coming in to like for a full charge here. This isn't like it's like, what is it? Like theft over 50,000 or theft over 10,000, theft over 5,000. Like it goes up, it goes in tiers.
Hmm.
So I'm like, well, you're kind of in a point where you're looking at jail time versus a slap on the wrist,
Right. Yeah.
and they don't think about it. And then what I always struggle with is when like, okay, when women do it, when women do something wrong in work where it's deceptive and it's theft and it's whatever, and and then the male counterpart will come in, like as in like the male co-owner or whatever will come in and say, oh well, she's got children and she's married. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Why is that my problem? Like why like she didn't think about them. It's my job to think about them because she
Hmm.
didn't, and they're her family. And it's
Right.
like, oh well, maybe she just needed, I don't care what she needed. She needed to not stick her hands in the cookie jar. That's what she
Mhm.
needed.
Right.
And but then like, everyone's like, oh Lisa, you're being so harsh. And I'm like, no, I'm being realistic. It doesn't matter whether you're male, female, trans. I don't care what you are. If you
Hmm.
steal from me, there's a consequence. That's how it
Right.
works, because you're not just stealing from me, you're stealing from the company, therefore you're stealing from everybody. So
Hmm.
but yeah, and HR is tricky. HR is very tricky. So I always struggle dealing with a lot of people in the HR realm, because they always say you want to be as neutral as possible. But I'm someone who, even though I'm like, I can have a perfect tone and I'm speaking to you politely, my face does not hide my emotional feeling in that moment. So I could be
Yes.
like, I'm like serious. Like it totally rats me out. Like I could be sitting there, I could be looking at you, and I'd be like, well, so we went ahead and we looked at everything. And at this particular junction, I understand that, you really tried to do the right thing, and then it's like, and my eyebrows just cocked the whole time. And it's just like, I've got like this shit eating look on my face. Like I
Right.
hate. And they're like, are you mad at me? And I'm like, no, I'm
Oh,
not
why
mad
would
at
you
you.
say that?
Yeah, I don't understand. What do you mean? And I'm just like, but inside I am. I'm like fuming. I'm like, why are you so stupid?
Hmm.
Like, why would you throw this all away? If you weren't
Right.
happy, like, and that's the other thing, parting of ways. I hate when people have all of these clauses for parting of ways. Like, parting of ways is already hard enough. At the end of the
Right.
day, if you don't want to work here, or I don't want you to work here, let's just find something. There's the bare minimum of laws, what I have to pay you just to like walk you out the door.
Hmm.
And then there's the bare minimum notice. But here's the thing. If you are done working for me and you come in and you say, I don't want to work for you anymore, Lisa, I've had enough. I've done everything I can do. The first thing out of my mouth is going to say, what do you need from me for this to be an easier transition for you? I'm sorry you feel this way. And if they
Yeah.
say, you know what, it would really, I just want to work my extra week. What if I just pay you the extra week and you leave now because you're really not happy and you have a lot of grievances that you haven't had a chance to discuss with me, and we're not going to start hashing them out now because you've already made your choice. And if
Hmm.
they're like, and a lot of people are like, oh, you can do that? Sure, I can. I'm not going to sit here and let you be pissed off for 1 week because you need the check. I'll just give it to you. It's 1 week. It's no problem. And I'll say, all I need is I need you to sign this document that says that you recognize that you're coming in and you're resigning on this day, and that you'd like to do, and you're providing me with 1 week's notice, and I'm providing you with 1 week's pay in order for you to leave now.
Right.
Super easy peasy. And they're like, oh, sure. And then they go. To me, it doesn't have to be hard. And it depends on how long they've been working there. Like if they've been working there for quite some time and they deserve 2 or 3 or 5 weeks, you just give it to them. Like, they're already entitled to it. Why are you going to hold them in a place that they're already pissed off in so that they can screw up your books or screw up something and then start just bitching to everybody about it? Like, it's they're already upset. Let them, like, you know what I mean? Like, let them walk away and give them what's fair and just be done with it. Like, why does it have to be so ugly? Why does everybody have to be so, I guess for me, I just hate greed. I hate when people get greedy and they're like, oh, well, you need to do this and you owe us that. And I'm like, but then again, I watch people who do some really horrific things on site and they get away with it.
Right.
Even though they get fired or they quit and then they still do stuff and they get away with it, but then the employees that are still on site can't get away with being 3 minutes late.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I'm
The
like,
power, again, the power of disconnect, right? Don't hold each other hostage. Why not just not necessarily say your piece? Really depends on the situation. But
yeah,
if the decision has been made, off you go, right? Keeping it legal, keeping it clean, and move on with the life, right? Without distraction, without distortion, without any further damage if it's not a pretty breakup.
not all breakups are supposed to be pretty, but they don't have to be toxic,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Things happen. And I mean, like, I got to be honest with you, based on what you've told me a little bit about your story that's in the book, it sounds like you didn't go toxic. You kind of just shut down and you just tried to process through it best you could, but you didn't really go toxic. You were just what you were going through was toxic in itself, and you were probably just self-destructing a little bit inside, thinking like, what happened? Like, I'm not going to keep doing this.
Hmm.
This person has a child with someone else. Did you guys end up having kids or no kids?
We have, yeah, at the time we had two kids already
Okay.
that I was home with, and I was full time working, and I had just about full time university. So I have my plate full, and he was traveling for work a lot, and yada, yada, yada. Here we are. But that goes back to connection and communication, or non communication in our case,
Mhm.
and not understanding where each person was at, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Building a story in your head that may or may not have been true for the other person and holding them responsible for that story that you created for that person isn't helpful, whether it's in relationships or in a workplace, right?
Hmm.
Where communication is that much more important, where especially in the upper management levels where one person said this, another person said that, and now we're creating a story around it instead of coming to the table and saying, look it, you said this, it makes me feel this way. Is that what you intended to do?
Hmm.
Right? But so many people aren't able to do that because they haven't done the work needed for their emotional intelligence or any other addressing of their personal stuff that they're not able to come to the table, right? And especially in construction industry, the male dominated environment, men don't talk about feelings, right? Because that's a taboo topic in our society.
Hmm.
So that translates into the workplace in the way that it does, especially construction, and round we go, right? So instead of building an efficient, friendly company where everybody is happy, now we start running circles and building resentment and then wonder why things blow up 2, 3 years later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're a very intelligent woman. That's why
Why,
you're
thank you.
CEO.
Human
It's
nature, right? Human nature is really interesting. Like, obviously, there's studies like the psychology, the neuroscience, the this, the that. There's so
Mhm.
many different moving parts that come together in the human body
Yeah.
and human experience, but there's so little that we actually know about it still, right? Especially in any kind of workplace leadership situations or positions. So much of it has to do with just human nature, right?
Yeah.
If we are trying to have the troops marching in the same direction and do more with less every day, well, money isn't a motivator for everybody, right?
Sure.
So each person, if we don't spend the time to learn about each person or as many individual or individualities as possible, how can we possibly say money motivates everybody? Right. So then it becomes again an HR thing where recruitment process becomes important and finding the right people for the right spots on the bus, basically,
Hmm.
and making sure that everybody's rowing in the same direction on this bus. Maybe it's a boat.
Yeah.
We'll figure out the mode of transportation later.
No, but you're absolutely, I mean, it's funny, but you're absolutely correct in this because, like, I mean, with me, like HR. So I'm not money motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Of course, we all want to make money and be able to, have our lives and do this and do that. I mean, I've got 2 kids. I'm a single mommy, right? So I mean, I get that. You need money to pay for things.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm not the person, like, I'm the person that, like, if I won $40 million tomorrow, I'd give most of it away.
Maybe not all of it, but some of
I wouldn't
it,
give all of it away. I'd give most of it away.
right?
Because what am I going to do with $40 million? You know what I mean? Like, I can set myself up and my kids up with 5 million proper
Right.
investment plans. The rest is just like whatever. And then it's just everybody coming out of the woodwork to ask you for shit. So if
Everybody's your
you don't,
friend all of a sudden.
right? So then I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I gave it to charity. It's gone.
Yep.
Like, you
Go
weren't on
back.
the charity list. You didn't make the cut.
Go back to the forest you just came from.
That's right. Go back from the rock you just crawled out from.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, but you're right. Human nature is so it is. It's one of the reasons why I did so much work in psychology. So right now I'm just on my way to completing my CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. I'll be
Okay.
completing that. Yeah. And then I'm also going to be, and then I'm starting my next one, which will be, and this is, I feel like this is going to be a fun one because my original background is criminology. I have a diploma in criminology and I also have a diploma in policing.
You're a
So
busy lady.
yes, thank you. But I'm also older than I look, so don't worry.
All right. However, still, all the education and the kids, and you have all sorts of things happening. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, and when you're a go-getter, you're a go-getter, right? So, but the one I want to do, I'm really fascinated in, is called dark psychology. And
Mm,
I'm really fascinated in it because psychology, there's so many layers. It's like an onion,
right.
right? Of people. And it's like sometimes people will do things. You know that old saying where they say you never really know somebody?
Mm-hmm.
And
It
it's
is true.
true. Yeah, because you're pulling back layers of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like something that it's like they present one side of themselves to you.
Yeah.
And that could be the authentic self, but they're so uncomfortable with their authentic self that they can't show it to anybody else. So then they show this other. That's why people call themselves people chameleons. I used to say that all the time. I used to say, I'm a people chameleon because I can kind of adapt to whatever's going on. But that was wrong. I wasn't turning into the people. I'm really good at mirroring people
Mm-hmm.
because it makes them comfortable. It's a psychological approach to making people comfortable so that they'll have a conversation. But it was never like, I mean, I was never the person. I'm actually really not a people chameleon. I don't change myself. I just mirror them so that they are comfortable, because that's what happens when you're talking to someone and you really like, you have a good connection with somebody, you'll
Mm-hmm.
mirror them. And then you get a better, you get a better response. It's actually, they go right into depth into mirroring in psychology. And when I was reading up on it one day, I was like, huh, I do that. I mirror people. And it's interesting because when people mirror me, I get really kind of excited, and it's really bad because I get really excited and I'm like, oh my God, I met another me. This is so fantastic. There's not many me's out there because I'm a little out there. And,
I
and
mean,
so, yeah. So, when you meet another you, you're almost kind of excited. It's like, okay, this person is on the ball. They're, educated. They're smart. They're full of enthusiasm. They like honesty. They're transparent, but they're really not. They're just showing you a side, because mirroring can also be a trait of a narcissist in order to get you comfortable, to love bomb you, and then they shit all over you. Whereas when I mirror somebody, it's a comfort,
mm-hmm.
not a manipulation.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, it's interesting. Like you said, it's all layers. Very cool.
I don't remember who said it, but I was listening, I think it was a podcast at some point, and it said that we have three lives: a public life, a private life, and a secret life. Right? So, to the layers conversation, where we have these masks or charades that we put on sometimes because this or that reason, when at the end of the day, we all just want to be liked and understood and accepted.
Hmm.
Right? But we go through this circus of performances just to get that one little hit of, oh yay, this person likes me.
Yeah, the hit of dopamine.
but
Absolutely.
but so many people are not, like you said, are not comfortable being themselves in
Yeah.
whatever situation.
Yeah.
So they just make up this persona that they think the person in front of them will like, so
Hmm.
they would have a good circle of friends, right?
Yeah.
Which in a long term eventually comes to bite them.
Well, it comes back to the old saying of just having that sense of belonging, right? Everybody wants to fit in, and it only takes one person to say you're good enough for the rest of the group to somewhat accept you,
Right.
and I mean, if we look at our children, it's a perfect example of the outer, inner, and secret you, right?
Hmm.
My kids at school are a side that I don't really see. Like when I see them at school and talking with their friends and stuff, I'm like,
Who are you?
yeah, like who are you, babe? Right? Like I'm looking at my daughter, and she's like 14 now, and but the one thing I will say is the minute they see me, they're like they just melt and they're just like, "Oh, mommy," and they run over and they like give me hugs and give me kisses on
Right.
my cheek and stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "This is the child I know." But
Oh, I
then
know you now.
right? But then at the same time, my son is so silly. He's so silly. And that's my favorite thing about him because I'm very silly.
Hmm.
But this his silliness is just he's so goofy. Like he'll dance around, he'll make funny faces. He'll do really stupid boy things. But he'll never do it in front of his friends. He'll
Mm.
like that is just and I'm like, and I asked
That's
him one
not
day, I said,
acceptable, right?
"Yeah." I'm like, "Do you
Yeah.
do this with your friends?" He's like, "No." I'm
Mm.
like, "Why?" And he's like, "I would never." And I'm like, "Do you do this at your dad's?" He's like, "No." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Why?" Why am I so lucky for you to
Right.
jump fart in my face? Like, please tell
You,
me.
because you're the comfort zone, mom. I am comfortable with you, so you get all the
That's it.
gross parts.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong. That kid, I tell you, he's such a goof. Like, he does some things that I swear to you, I'm like, why? Please explain to me why I am granted these wonderful presents of yours. I'm not worthy. You should give them
Right.
to your father. He
The
would love
access to
them.
grossness.
It is. Like he'll come and he'll cuddle me like he's going to be 12 here next week.
Mm.
But I love that he's still cuddly. He's still cuddly with his mommy. And I mean, like, that's going to be gone sooner than later. Like, it's right around the corner. So I take all those cuddles.
Right.
And, but he'll cuddle me. And then all of a sudden, like, he'll say nothing. And then there'll be like this horribly rotten smell. And I'll be like, did you just break wind? And he's like, and he'll just big smile. And he's like,
Right.
yes. And I'm like,
He
thank
was
you.
cute when you were 2 months old,
You were
but it's not cute anymore.
I'm like, and it's funny, like sometimes my kids will bug me because I'll sit in my office and I'll just watch videos of them when they were babies and I'll be like, oh, and I'll get like emotional because I'm like, this is what they did before they talk back.
Right.
Oh, look, they're sleeping. It's so beautiful.
This brief moment of our life.
Right? Right. But now they're older. I mean, your kids must be old. Your kids must be in their they're probably what in their double digits now, yeah?
Yeah, the teenagers. My daughter just turned 15 last month, and my son is 16, 17 in the fall.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're up there, sort
Yeah.
of building their independence and building their personalities and their likes and dislikes and their community and their tribe. So it's really cool to see. My son, unfortunately, doesn't live with me. He moved away with his dad
Okay.
to Vancouver Island. So I don't necessarily get to experience the grossness of boys as they go through the teenage
You're not missing
stage.
out. You're not missing out.
So I hear. But it's really cool to see my daughter turning to be, or I guess growing up to be, or turning out to be a young lady, and the way that she presents herself or doesn't present herself for that matter,
Mhm.
and how she already declared that she is going to be gone most of the summer, or I'm not going to see her most of the summer because she's going to be hanging out with her friends. So the teenage years, as much as a lot of people talk about them and how horrible they are and this and that, I think a lot of it has to do with the parent as well, and the parents need or want to control the kid because they
Mhm.
somewhere within themselves they don't have control of themselves. So for me, it's been kind of cool experience to have my daughter here and having her grow into the teenage years. And yes, she has her ways and she's her own person. And for me to continue reminding myself that she is her own person, then she's not just an extension of me and I want for her to be this, this, and that because that's what I want or I would want for myself at her age. So to
Mhm.
give her the freedom, to give her the safe space to be herself and develop whatever personality she decides to develop that day or that hour, then
Mhm.
have the space to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
The way your son is safe with you, to be himself. I want for both of my kids to be safe with me, to be themselves. Because as a mother, I believe we see our kids like their essence,
Hmm.
and then we observe their whatever shenanigans they might go through in their group, friend circles, in their groups, to be this or that, or feel accepted or whatever it is, right? But under all of those layers that they're starting to build now, there's still the essence of the kid that I know, and I because I made that kid. So there's that connection will always be there.
I agree with you. My daughter doesn't spend any time with her dad. She chooses not to. I thought I was going to get some headway myself and my significant other. She's really close with my significant other, and so we've been kind of trying to help her through some of her hard feelings towards her dad.
Mhm.
I don't push her because I believe that her feelings are 100% validated, and I don't pull the whole "you only have one father"
Mhm.
bullshit.
Right.
Whatever your relationship is with your dad, that's between you two. It has nothing to do with me. You're always welcome to go to your father's. Your brother goes whenever he wants. I don't stop him from going. But if, I always get upset when people are like, oh, well, you should go and see your parents. They're your parents. And I'm like, I loved my parents. I grew up in a generation where you respected your elders off the hop. There was no question. Didn't matter how they talked to you. You just
Mhm.
respected your elders. And you swept things under the rug and you didn't talk about things, and it was a lot of garbage. And so for me, I was like, I want more for my kids. If my kid is saying to me, I don't want to spend time with this adult because I don't like the way they talk to me, I don't like the way they treat me, I'm not comfortable around them, I don't feel safe around them, it's done. It's not an argument. To me, it's just not an argument. It's like, okay, no problem. You can wherever you feel, especially with my daughter, because I want girls to me. I mean, like what some of the things I went through as a young woman and as a young girl, I don't want my daughter to go through. So, if she says, I feel safe here, that's where you feel safe. I'm not going to force you to do anything. But we were getting a little bit of headway where because her dad's not a mean guy. He's just selfish. So, but, and so I didn't want her to ever regret her decision because she made it very young. So I wanted her, and I would tell her, like when him and I were together, I mean, he has a very lovely family. His brothers and sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws are all very nice people. All the nieces and nephews they all have their own flair and charm. And so, and he had kids before me because we have a large age gap difference, but his kids before me, I befriended their mother. I still think they're great. And I mean, they're older, they're moved on, they're married, they got kids, whatever. And, I wanted my daughter to partake in that and not to miss out. And, like the FOMO, I didn't want her to have any of that. And she's just
Mhm.
really content just to be with mom and be on mom's side and, and have my mom and my brother and my people. She's just very content and she's happy that way. And she's 14, but yeah, they're fickle and they go through so many different things, but she is very much an introvert, which is hard for me. So her and I are very different. So I'm very extroverted,
Yeah.
and I'm not a boy crazy person. I never was boy crazy. I was always the one that was out playing sports. I was a tomboy growing up, right? I played all the sports. I went provincials with, softball. I did all the things, right? Was skiing, competitive skiing, dance, you name it. I was in everything. And I used to like fist fight with the guys. I didn't care. I was like, like I was totally a tomboy. And I love all
Mhm.
the guys that I had in my life then, and I love them all now just as much as I did when I was a kid because they're all married or had kids and done their thing. But we all still stay connected because we all grew up together. But my daughter is boy crazy, and she always has to look cute, and I was never that girl. So I'm like, honey, if you want to just like go camping, she's like, ew. I'm like, okay, well, I went camping. I thought it was great when I was a kid. I mean, I won't camp now.
Mhm.
Mom's a
Right.
little too bougie now, but
There's definitely an age limit on camping.
right,
From my
right.
perspective, I think you're right. The kid, at any rate, most, or at least at the older stages of ages, should be able to have the choice. But I think there is also the, I don't know, learning or wisdom share where they would learn from someone like you, let's say without a parent or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
As far as respecting elders, I don't think is an entirely outdated concept. It's
No.
just the way maybe previous generations take it to like the extreme level, right? Like
Mhm.
regardless how this person is treating you, they're your parent, grandparent, whatever it is, you have to oblige, right? So the
Mhm.
respect does have to happen from both sides, but it's still for
Mhm.
the older generation to teach the younger generation what those human interactions are, right? Just
100%.
like we learn or don't learn how to be a good parent or how to be a good partner in a
Yeah.
relationship, like those human interactions are learned from somewhere, right? So if you can be the parent that teaches them to, especially for a female kid, to stand up for herself and respect her own boundaries and respect her own body, there's there's space in that as well, right?
No, I agree with you. And I still say to my kids, hey, respect your elders when they get a little mouthy, because I do believe that you
Mhm.
should still respect people that are older than you. You can't come in at 11 years old and start talking to a 35-year-old like you're 35. I think that's
Mhm.
disrespectful. You have to be,
Yeah.
you have to remind yourself that you know, it's like you don't need to be in that level of dialogue with this person. You're
Hmm.
12. Be
Right.
12.
Stay
You
in your
know,
lane.
have some respect. Yeah, stay in your lane. Exactly. Have some respect that this person is older than you and they probably have a lot more life experience than you. So if you have questions, ask them politely. Always, for me, respect is automatically given. How you treat me is going to be a reflection of who you are and whether or not you're going to retain that respect.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, I always hate when I hear people say respect is earned. It's one of my most hated things. I'm like, no. Respect is earned when you have depleted it, then you have to
Hmm.
earn it back. But I
Right.
give you respect in the beginning because I don't know you, I don't know your story. You're owed the respect automatically because to me you're a human being. Now,
Right.
how you treat me is going to determine how much respect you receive
Hmm.
as an adult. As a child,
That's true.
you shouldn't have to have respect blindly, but there has to be boundaries because they're
Right.
children.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with
And
you
they have to
100%.
learn that from somewhere as well, right? So
Absolutely.
from interactions, but from verbal conversations as well, right? Because
Yeah.
what they see and what they think they see could be different things, right?
Mhm. No, absolutely. I think what you're doing is amazing. I'm excited for this book to come out. I'll
Thank
tell
you.
you what, Jessica's coming on next. She'll be on after you. I think she's booked a couple days from now. So
Nice.
she'll be on after you, which is super exciting because then I've got a couple of authors. I'm hoping Kyle and Victoria, the other Victoria, I think it's Mendoza, I think her
Hmm.
last name is. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I'm wanting those two to link up again so that they are link up with me again so that they can go back to back because that would be fun. And I did ask Maria to come on back again because she's been on my podcast once already. She's amazing because I even said that she was already an author because I have her book. It's somewhere. I started doing it. That's why I'm like, where is it? Did you see her other book, Maria?
I think, yeah, just in some of the posts on social media, but I haven't seen it in person yet.
Oh, I got it. Hang on. So I just like come off camera. So here's her book. It's called "Find Yourself: Dating a Narcissist."
Mm,
So
yeah.
that's Maria's other book. And it's a workbook, which is really great. So it's for people who have done so it's like it's you know, it's like a self-help book, right? So you
Mm,
can write
okay.
all the things in here. But it goes through a lot of things that she went through and things that to look for and then how it makes you feel. So it's all about journaling. It's like ask yourself the meaning, ask yourself and meaningful journaling. This section is meant to reflect on your own story, thoughtfully reflect on your own relationships. So I love books like this where there's you know with Maria she did I feel she did a good job when she was writing this book because I like meat and potatoes, but then there's also an opportunity for you to because you know when you're reading something and you really get into it and then you're like, oh my god, this resonates with me and I went through
Hmm.
something like this and you almost kind of want to like compare it and she gives you pages to do that where you can
Right.
kind of compare and
Yeah.
contrast on some of the things that she experienced. Okay,
Mm.
it's great.
Yeah. Often when I read books, I either highlight or underline things that I write that resonate, like extra resonate with me that time.
Yeah.
And then periodically I would flip through, like I have shelves of books here of all sorts of personal development stuff. And then periodically I would go back and look through the book and see were the pieces that I was highlighting at the
Yep.
time whenever I was reading that book, right? Because then periodically, if I end up reading the same book, then it's always a different piece that stands out depending on what I'm rolling through
It's
today,
true.
right? Versus 3 years ago.
I know it's so true. And then you find things, and then I find it interesting not only when you're reading books, but reading posts or seeing reels come across your page, and for a split second you're like, wait a minute, I was that person 3 years ago, or wait a minute, I totally get that. I'm there right now, or like it's fun. Like I was reading a post yesterday on LinkedIn, great post. It was by this very intelligent man who's an entrepreneur and a founder of different associations, and has a background in accounting. And he's very smart. And he wrote this incredible post about entrepreneurship, how his company's doing, how it's about planting seeds, and just watching your idea basically come to fruition, and what that journey looks like. And that you basically, in a nutshell, the amount of patience you have to have, and
Hmm.
how, but that the rewards are well worth it, right? And I loved reading it because it was like, not only did he do a great job of basically saying what it is to be an entrepreneur, but the one thing people need to remember is that it is not for the faint of heart. It is not a marathon. I always say this, it's like short sprints. When you're an entrepreneur, it's short sprints. And I said, but the other part about it is the passion he had writing it. You could see it come through in the way he wrote it. And I love that. It was like, this man knows he's coming into another chapter of this journey he started, and he's getting more and more ideas that he's going to turn into these seeds that will germinate and come into fruition, and where he'll be able to reap. So I think it's great. And that's what we think about when you're an entrepreneur, or when you sit at the very head of a table as a leader like yourself.
Hmm.
You want to see the seeds that come in, whether it's from you directly or from your staff. You want to be able to germinate them and let them grow to see how it's going to work. Because that's the one thing I always say, I tell employers, is I'm like, where you guys go wrong is you don't listen to your staff. Do you know how many great ideas they have that could save you money? Do you know how many great ideas they have to get other people on the same page? Like, you've got a lot of little diamonds in the rough, like working just right there in front of you, and you don't even know it.
Right? Resources, just like in landscaping, you have to nurture the soil for the grass to
Mm-hmm.
grow, right? Because it can provide the grass all the fertilizer, all the whatever spray you want. But
Yeah.
if the soil is rocks and dust, it really does not matter anymore, right? So,
Yep.
culture in an organization is the soil, proverbial soil, where the employees are safe or feel safe and are
Yep.
comfortable with expressing themselves in a way that they know they're not going to be shut down before they even finish the sentence, right?
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. That's amazing. Oh my goodness. It was such a pleasure to meet you, Irina.
You
Okay,
too,
tell
Lisa.
me, how do we pronounce your last name? Is it wait,
Let's hear it.
Jiltsova? Jiltsova?
Yeah, more or less how it sounds. Jiltsova is the Russian version
Jiltsova.
of it, right? But because the that sound doesn't exist in English, so it's a little bit of a mangled version. So it's Jiltsova, basically just how it's written.
So say it in Russian.
Jiltsova.
Jiltsova? So
So
just jit,
Jiltsova, right? Because the L is soft in Russian.
silent.
Yeah, and then the first letter is a. This technically the translation should have been a ZH kind of combination, but because that particular letter doesn't actually exist in English in the Latin combination,
Mhm.
excuse me. So this one is just the paraphrased, really, version of
No, but
it.
I always like, yeah, I love all the different names and how they're pronounced correctly. Like, I want to hear the proper enunciation of them, because I mean, I know that you go through life, especially living in Canada, where people say your name incorrectly pretty much your whole life. So you just kind of like, yeah, close enough. And I'm like, no, tell me how to say it
No, get
properly.
it.
Tell me to say it properly. Like, come on. So I love that. But thank you so much for being on the show. I think that your story is an amazing contribution to this book. I hope you write another one. I'm hoping that it's the success that you guys have. So you guys do Good Grief, and then do another version of like what the opposite of Good Grief, whatever Victoria wants to name that. Uh,
I'm just on board with whatever Victoria is doing, quite honestly.
she's amazing. Hey, I love her.
Right? There,
She's a
she's all
sweetheart.
sorts. She's full of all sorts of creative ideas, and I know that's not my wheelhouse, so I'm happy to just connect my wagon to wherever she's going and experience the ride along, if nothing else.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's an amazing young woman, and I just adore her. And I mean, her mother's a sweetheart. She's got a strong mother, and she's got a great dad. She's got a great family unit.
Right.
And Victoria is such, she's so full of light. You know, when you talk to her, she's just sweet.
Hmm.
I always smile so big every time I see her. I'm supposed to be going out for lunch with her soon. I have to go bug her because we booked lunch, and then she's like, I have to get something done with like her tires or something with her car. And I was like, yeah, babe, whatever. I'm like, we'll catch up later. So I think we're going to go meet in the Northwest is kind of, it's like our
Nice.
point where we
Yeah.
go to go hang out. But yes, but I love what you guys are doing with Good Grief and with Victoria. I hope that all of you will join her again on the next book. Everybody should get out and try and get a copy of this. Now you guys can find it on Amazon, or you can also find it on, can you do Kindle on it?
I believe Victoria has it posted on Kindle now as well. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then I'm sure all of you authors have it. Are you guys doing any book signings?
We did do a book launch back in May. We
Mhm.
gathered at Flores and Pine.
Yep.
Right now, there isn't anything planned, but I think my idea, anyways, we should do another gathering and have a "Where are they now" kind of thing. Now that we're all a little more familiar with each other's story,
Mhm.
so maybe I'll plant that seed with Victoria. So maybe in the fall, in a couple of months, we can do something as well.
I think that would be amazing. Well, I'm excited. I think like, I got to be honest, like, I'm just so in awe of who you are as a person, just so you know. What you've gone through, where you are, and where you're headed. I think these are all great things. So thank you for being on my show, Irina.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Lisa, and I'm really excited that I have met you, and maybe we'll meet again and put something together.
I would love that. So I mean, like, obviously you have my email, so keep my email because I mean, like, I'm sure there can be some synergy between us because our industries kind of are the same. So
Yeah.
I was going to say collide, but they're the same. So
They're the same, so I'm sure I'll need a leading hand or helping hand somewhere in my circles in the coming days, months, and weeks and months. So I'm sure we'll be in touch.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So just hang with me, and I'm just going to close up, and then we'll just carry on with our loveliness. So, thank you everybody for attending this episode of Devil's Advocate. As you know, so you can find Irina through LinkedIn under Victoria Givlin for the book Good Grief. I encourage you guys to all go check it out. We're going to have a few more authors on here to talk a little bit about their stories because everybody's story is different, but it is very personal to them. So again, thank you, Irina, for being a part of us. And as always, don't do anything crazy.